Orojide Sanwo-Olu in Lagos has forgotten all about governance. Nothing appears to be happening in Lagos.
Sorry, what did you call him?
Orojide Sanwo-Olu. They had to bring out Oro for him to win. All he does is go around pointing fingers, and when he points at you, you are in trouble. No, I never called him the Lion of Babylon. I called him the Alaafin of Bodilon.
Okay.
Never the Lion of Bodilon.
Okay.
A lion has to rule, and a lion has some nobility to it. This one has no nobility to him. Please.
I don't think you saw then that man was ever going to become president. In fact, I think I watched one of your interviews where you said that if he became president, you were going to go on exile.
This question has come so many times that I'm thankful for the opportunity to perhaps explain it so that the idiots who have continued to assume that I have broken my word would be clear. But Tinubu knows, INEC knows, the judiciary knows, and so do a lot of Nigerians, that Tinubu did not win the presidency. He stole it. You have people who should be in jail, rotting in prison cells, presiding over the affairs of the country. You actually have to be functionally insane to remain in Nigeria. In fact, anyone you know who can afford to live abroad and has refused to go and has stayed behind is a madman. The person has to be insane because Nigeria is cannibalistic in the extreme. The Nigerian is busy crossing the Mediterranean Sea after surviving the Sahara and the slave markets of Libya. What are they fleeing from? Because that's not migration, that's fleeing. How did we get to this point? And it's going to get much worse. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I am merely speaking to what I see. There is no way I will fulfill my purpose without offending people. I've lost friends, I've lost clients. I piss off a lot of my friends, and that's fine. The truth must be told, whether people like it or not, but it's fine.
I go to Nigeria now and where we are and how we're gonna get there. And I have several ways and several incidents with which or through which I could ask you this question. The first one is that one day again, you said that, do I know that you're convinced that in the Old Testament, during the exodus of the Israelites from Egypt to the Promised Land, when they were on the cusp of it, when Joshua sent the 12 scouts, not spies, by the way.
You don't forget things.
Rather, it was Moses. When Moses sent the 12 scouts, not spies. Spies are illegal. Scouts are tourists. He sent the 12 scouts, and they came back and told him that truly, that land is a land that flows with milk and honey, but it's a land that devours.
Nigeria.
Yes, you said you were convinced that it was Nigeria that they stumbled into, that it wasn't Canaan. That it's a land of milk and honey that devours its inhabitants. Where are we now?
You know, I have told that anecdote a few times, and each time I have had occasion to tell that anecdote, it's been a very painful one to share, but it's a cautionary tale about the country called Nigeria. When Moses sent out the 12 spies, the ones that came back and said, oh, it's a land flowing with milk and honey, but that they found the descendants of Anak. It was the descendants of Anak in the land, and that next to them they were as grasshoppers. And I said those people merely strayed into Nigeria, because when you look at our country, Nigeria, you find a place that is unparalleled and incomparable to any other country in the world, unless you consider Congo, the Republic of the old Zaire. Nigeria is blessed with human and material resources, incomparable. We have oil, we have gold, we have everything that should appertain to good life. The Nigerian has no business whatsoever with poverty. But look around us. Nigerians are living in multi-dimensional poverty. And the ruiners of the country, they are living like pashas. They are living the lives of kings and princes, but the people themselves are deliberately impoverished. So it is not out of place to compare Nigeria to that place that was described as consuming its inhabitants, because Nigeria is cannibalistic in the extreme. In recent days, you've heard the story of Okwama, where the soldiers were murdered by a few, and where the soldiers went back with reprisal attacks and leveled almost an entire community, killing indiscriminately. Lekki Toll Gate and the massacre that took place there in October 2020 is another good example of what we have become as a people. Earlier in the year, we were talking about Bokos in Plateau State, where people were killed on Christmas Day like flies. Nigeria is the only place where you find the government talking about repentant terrorists and absorbing them into the army. Nigeria is the only place that will be as rich as it is, and you see people desperately scooping hot food off boiling cauldrons, packing rice with sand. This is the country where the rulers were hiding palliatives meant for people during COVID. Everything about Nigeria is suggestive of the country that the spies entered, where it consumes, it devours. Those are the words. It devours. It is a land that devours its inhabitants. It is instructive that it is this same country that could not find 5 billion for the student loan scheme, that they are busy buying 160 million naira Jeep. They are praying billions into private accounts. You have people who should be in jail, rotting in prison cells, presiding over the affairs of the country. And you think that it is not succinct that we describe such a country as a place that devours its inhabitants. The Nigerian is busy crossing the Mediterranean Sea after surviving the Sahara and the slave markets of Libya. What are they fleeing from? Because that's not migration. That's fleeing. They are fleeing what has become a functional war zone. How did we get to this point? In my youth, you could go to England without collecting visa. They will stamp your visa at the gate. It's right there at immigration control that they will give you they'll stamp your visa to enter. This is the same country today where you require millions to buy tickets and you need to queue. You see our people queuing in the rain and in the sun to get visas to go out. Cephas, West African Cephas, the Togolese currency has more weight than our naira today. How did we get here? So it is, and if you remember, this analogy that you are raising from this is an anecdote that goes back over 10 years. It wasn't this bad then, and it's going to get much worse. So it's unfortunate that we are where we are, but this is where we are. And there is nothing about where we are that is suggestive of any immediate turnaround anytime soon. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I am merely speaking to what I see. There is nothing about our country to encourage hope or offer any worthy aspiration.
Well, Bradley, as at 11, 12 years ago, you couldn't stand the man that you would call the Lion of Bodilon. I mean,
I never called him the Lion of Bodilon. I called him the Alaafin of Bodilon.
Okay.
Never the Lion of Bodilon.
Okay.
A lion has to rule, and a lion has some nobility to it. This one has no nobility to him. Please.
Okay. You're making my point exactly. Okay, you called him. Okay, I missed that. It was something of Bodilon. It was the Alaafin. That's what you called him.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't think you saw then that man was ever going to become president. And yet here we are. In fact, I think I watched one of your interviews where you said that if he became president, you were going to go on exile.
Let me explain something to you, Teju. Because this question has come so many times that I'm thankful for the opportunity to perhaps explain it so that the idiots who have continued to assume that I have broken my word would be clear. I said if he won the presidency, I'll leave Nigeria on exile. So let me clear that up. For him to have won, the people would have had to have voted for him. We didn't vote for him. He stole the presidency. Yakubu and INEC sold him the presidency. The presidency is not an expression of the people's will. It is an expression of the debauchery of INEC and the height of our judicial corruption. He did not win the presidency. If I had left, I would have been sanitizing and deodorizing a skunk. If nothing else, I rise and fall by my word. And when I said that I would live on exile if this man won, it was so that people will know that I do not believe Nigerians to be depraved enough to be possessed of the idiocy to vote somebody like him into power. And they did not. Anybody who prefers to delude themselves can continue to delude themselves, but Tinubu knows, INEC knows, the judiciary knows, and so do a lot of Nigerians, that Tinubu did not win the presidency. He stole it. So I'm not leaving because he did not win. It's that simple. That I'm still here is in rebuke of him. It actually cost me a lot more to stay here. It's not just the multiple level of danger that I face on a daily basis by remaining in Nigeria. Because if they will be planning my murder 3 years ago when they were not in power, one of his goons in Lagos State was the one sat at the head of the plot to kill me. They are the ones in power now. Ordinarily, I should run now. But I'm here. I am here because he did not win. He knows it. And every man and his dog in Lagos State knows it. He was beaten resoundingly in Lagos on the 25th of February. He couldn't even make 15% in Lagos. Segun Agbaje, the INEC commissioner in Lagos State, cannot produce the form EC8A for Lagos State up till today. I was the person who was charged by the Obi legal team to collect the election material from INEC. He could not, up until today, INEC in Lagos State cannot give us the form EC8A, which is the polling unit level result. Because they know he lost. He lost woefully. He was thoroughly rejected across the length and breadth of the state that he has held hostage. For 24 years as at that time, he lost. So how much more the other parts of Nigeria? Let them continue fooling themselves. He has snatched it, grabbed it, but he can't run with it. And that's why we are all in the mess that we are in today. So yeah, if he had won, if Nigerians had been foolish enough to have voted for him, I would have left. It wouldn't be because of him. It would be out of protest that I could be stuck with such evil people who would have found the grace to vote for somebody like him. But as I have said, they did not vote for him. They rejected him. He has forced himself on us. And we can't do much about that. But I'm not going to legitimize his stealing by leaving. He didn't win.
Wow. All right. Speaking of leaving, I remember that you were one of the very few people to whom I shared my plans to move my family out of the country about 2017-ish. 2017-18. And you were unreservedly against it. You didn't think I should. I can never forget. You didn't think I should. You thought I should have remained. And then I left. And then I would call you every now and again. And you would always say, this was almost always your first thing on the phone when we spoke about Nigeria. Well, so because we joke a lot, I never know whether you're serious as to whether you've changed your stance or whether you're teasing. So which is it right now? If I was still there and I came to you today and I said, I'm leaving now, or at least I'm taking my family, I'll be back after a while, what would you have said today?
See, Teju, the apple tree will not grow in Lagos because it was never intended for the soils of Lagos. But plant coconut, he will thrive. I was born to live here, and so are you. But people go where they will survive, and that was what you did. But if you had come to me today to say to me, Egbomo, I would probably not have said to you what I said at that time. Not because I would still believe that you were better off abroad. No, I still believe you are better off in Nigeria. But as you have heard me say, the first person who used that word escape was Sheun Anikulapo. He said, "No, people are not migrating, they are escaping." The reality is that the Nigerian abroad is escaping, is not migrating. That you decided to leave at the time you did is a reflection of the wisdom you found in understanding the environment in which you have found yourself. It is not that anything is intricately wrong with seeking greener pastures in other climes. But I am telling you that in all of my travels, and I've been to a few countries around the world, and I have never come across a single Nigerian who has told me that they are happy to be outside of Nigeria, but they have left because Nigeria has constrained them and rendered it very difficult for them to actualize themselves or to fulfill their potential. So it is the constraints of Nigeria that has led a lot of people to leave Nigeria. So the wisdom of your decision is unquestionable. But I am not sure that a day passes without you looking back at Nigeria. I'm not sure you can ever be happy if you had to cut yourself off completely from the mad country that you left behind. But when you speak with me and I tell you, the wise ones have left, it is the truth. The objective reality is that there is nothing about Nigeria to suggest that those of us who have stayed behind are sane. You actually have to be insane to have a choice about leaving Nigeria and then elect not to go. You actually have to be functionally insane to remain in Nigeria. In fact, it is my thesis and argument that if you truly want to know the insane Nigerian, look to the ones who have a choice as to where they will live and who can afford to live abroad but elect to stay behind in Nigeria. Anyone you know who can afford to live abroad and has refused to go and has stayed behind is a madman. The person has to be insane. Yes, now, the person has to be insane. How can you exercise a choice to remain in a place that is as functionally crazy as our country has become? Everything that should not happen, every abnormality has been normalized in our space. Everything that shouldn't happen is happening in this place. Everything. And yet, we all carry on as if it is completely normal. So, yes, I don't believe that it is right for a Nigerian to leave Nigeria and go abroad, especially America, because even the blacks who were born there, who are fourth and fifth generation, are not accorded the full rights of a human being. When the system can find its way to deal with them the way it is structured to deal with them, it still deals with them as though they are still enslaved. So as bad as he bad, the Nigerian soldier look at me too, I can shakara him. He doesn't know who my father is. If it comes down to that level, we can shakara each other. May God rest Pius Adesomi in his bosom. I read a piece that he wrote some years before he died, how he would have to drive all the way into the Canadian bush to go and hoot his horn. You know, he hadn't been hearing car horn, so he would drive into the forest to go and press his horn so that he can hear it, because it's too normal and sane in that place, and he's not used to the normalcy and sanity. We are Nigerians. Sanity is far from us, because our country does not allow us the luxury of sanity. That is just the reality.
So you've described yourself herein as being an insane person.
If I was sane, why would I be in Nigeria? I have to be insane to be here now. Look, sanity is an handicap. If you are too sane in Nigeria, okay, let me tell you something. If you want to know how insane we are, drive into a roundabout in Nigeria. You are driving into the roundabout, you know that the person in the roundabout has the right of way and you are waiting for him to go. He is abusing you for not moving. The one behind you is hunting for you. Were law. The person who has the right of way is telling you, Olori buruku ko shikuro now, because he doesn't know that he's the one who has right of way. So now when you are confronted with that, how can you talk about it being sane? A policeman, in Yoruba language, you call a policeman Olopa. Olopa means the bearer of the staff. The staff that he bears is the king's authority, is the symbol of the king's authority. So the policeman is essentially the symbol of the authority of the state because he's the enforcer of the state's laws. Policeman, a creation of law, turns his gun on you, a citizen, and he tells you, I will shoot you and nothing will happen. So the person who should enforce the law is the one who is declaring the state of impunity, and you tell me that's a sane environment. What is sane about that? If a policeman should say that to you in America, he will lose his job. Even in the most racist part of America, if you catch him on camera turning his gun on a citizen or even an immigrant or even a goat, if he would dare to turn his gun on a dog and shoot the dog, he will lose his job. But in Nigeria, nothing will happen. He's told you the truth. He will kill you and nothing will happen. This Nigerian Senate padded the budget, 3.7 trillion. No. What has happened? Nothing. So are we sane? How can we be sane and that will be happening in our country and nothing? Have you seen any reaction on our street? Nothing will happen. Nothing. So we can lie to ourselves and pretend that everything is hunky-dory, but the reality is that nothing is sane or normal about our existence. Our objective reality speaks to madness. We can ignore it, we can pretend it's not the case, but that is the truth.
All right, finally, Bradley, in the immortal words of Sonny Okosun, which way Nigeria? Usually when you ask people about the prognosis of Nigeria at this point, it's all doom and gloom, which is probably expected. But I've never asked you that, and I figured I was going to ask you now because you're in the know. You're in the know now as one who's walking a path of not only defiance, you're walking in your truth, which is probably closely aligned with the truth. You're speaking your truth. So you're in the eye of the storm, so to speak. Therefore, if you would give your prognosis, I mean, it's bound to carry more weight than somebody who can't even speak out and is just talking, so to speak. So, which way Nigeria? Do we truly have hope in our lifetimes? What is it gonna take?
Teju, what I know is that our current trajectories are not sustainable. Definitely not sustainable. We cannot continue like this. At some point, whether some people act consciously or not, this system is going to hit a brick wall. The French have a word, they call it revolver. That is the root word that battered the word revolution. And it simply means to turn around. You are walking towards a cliff edge. At some point, you would have to turn around or you plunge down the cliff. Plunging down the cliff is suggestive of a cataclysmic chaos, anarchy. Turning around is a conscious and deliberate decision to avoid disaster. That is the revolution. Whether Nigeria likes it or not, one or the other is going to happen. When I was growing up, It used to be that our parents looked, or let me even say our grandparents looked to the youth to fix Nigeria. So you find that the most conscious layer of the Nigerian state were the students, especially university students. I was there during Ali Must Go. I was in primary school in UI, Abadina. I inhaled the tear gas of the Ali Must Go riot of 1977. I was there in 1986 as a year 2 student in LASU during the SAP riot. I was there in 1988. But today, the students of Nigeria are no longer the conscious layer. They have become part and parcel of the mess. The Nigerian political class has turned the more conscious ones amongst them into killer squads with which they eliminate their opponents. You cannot hear any consciousness issuing out of the university system any longer. So you begin to ask yourself, where would this turnaround start from? It is instructive that the same people who are shouting, our local, Ebin power is what they are shouting now. Hunger and deprivation has been democratized in Nigeria. You are seeing people hijacking trucks bearing food in the north. On Lagos Island a few months ago, it was a truck bearing yam that they looted. Slowly, hunger is going round. Where this will end, I will not pretend to know. All I am doing, what I have committed to doing, and what I'm spending my time doing, is to preach to our people, to let them understand that one, your enemy is not the man from the other tribe. He's not the man who is not worshiping God the way you are worshiping God. Your true enemies are the ones in government houses and offices, stealing your commonwealth and squandering your future. At some point, something will give. I don't know which it will be. It might be that we fall off the cliff edge, or it might be that we turn around. I would prefer a revolution in Nigeria. I wouldn't want us falling off the cliff edge. I would prefer to see a Nigeria that turns around. And when you say revolution, people should please stop this imagination that forces them to walk away from the truth, because they're always thinking, oh, revolution, bloodshed. No. A revolution could mean that people woke up one day and decided that we've had enough of this. You know what? Let's restructure our country. Let's go back to the regional autonomy that we started Nigeria with. It might be a spot. Look, NSAS was a protest against one item. It then snowballed. It was about police brutality. And then as it grew and gathered momentum, it became about end bad governance, end impunity. People began to tag on different things because they began to realize that the totality of police brutality itself is coming from that stream of impunity that feeds Nigeria. So I don't know where it will end. I know what I prefer, and I've spoken often to my preference. However, I have no way of deciding for the Nigerians. It is up to Nigerians to decide exactly what direction they want to take their country. My preference will be a revolution, as peaceful as it can possibly be. We were very peaceful during NSAS. It didn't stop the state from murdering untold numbers. So we might be looking for a peaceful revolution, and it might not end up peaceful. But that will not be because we started any violence. It will be because the state reacted predictably with violence. So my preference, I'm not shy about it. I've said it multiple times, would be to have a revolution in Nigeria, and I want it to be peaceful, because the only person who gains when it is violent is the state. The poor man has no guns to bear. It is the state that has all the instruments of coercion. So that's my preference.
Okay, my second final question. Based on that which you've said, we're hearing what seems to be hope coming out of Abia State. the governor seems to be doing some good things. From your practiced and experienced eye, is this the real thing in the right direction, or is this another mirage from which we will be rudely shocked back to reality all of a sudden? Is this going to spread? Is this going to catch? Could this be contagious?
See, the problem with our situation is that we can't vote our way out of our mess. With INEC as useless as it is, and with the judiciary as debased as it is, we cannot vote our ways out of this. However, it is not impossible that this motley crew of bandits that are sat in our National Assembly, they may, out of their own selfish interest, come to the conclusion that they will strengthen the Electoral Act to demand electronic transfer from the polling unit level for future elections. That would be a revolutionary step. But what I can say about Abia State is this: when a governor is succeeding 3 disasters like Oji Uzokalu, Theodore Oji, and Ipeasu, unmitigated disasters, all 3 of them, it becomes very easy for that governor to excel, because however little he might do, it will be magnified against the backdrop of the failures that he has succeeded. Everything coming out of Abia State is suggestive of a good governor who is giving good governance to the people, and the people would appear to be enjoying the dividends of democracy in Abia State. Whether that will be sustained for the next 4 years, only God knows. I have no idea. The man, if he is as wise as he appears to be, must know by now that he will not live forever, and posterity should be what he should be working towards. And he wasn't exactly a poor man before he became governor. So as long as he continues to remember the fact of his mortality, I would imagine that should be sufficient to help him to do the right thing. If he continues that way, no matter how much they might want to rig, it will become impossible for them to rig him out in 4 years' time. And if they cannot rig him out in 4 years' time, it becomes easy to say that he would retain power in 4 years' time, and he will continue and build on the legacy that he has started with now. But as you can imagine, you have 36 states, and we are speaking to only 1 state out of 36. Orojide Sanwo-Olu in Lagos has forgotten all about governance. Nothing appears to be happening in Lagos.
Sorry, what did you call him?
Orojide Sanwo-Olu. They had to bring out Oro for him to win what they call the election in March of last year. They had to bring out Oro. Oro came out in every local government in Lagos State. And considering the fact that he paid blood money to the survivors of Lekki Toll Gate, it is fitting to call him Sanwo-Olu. So that's my name for him. He is here in Lagos and we don't feel his impact. All he does is go around pointing fingers, and when he points at you, you are in trouble. So if only 1 governor is being talked about out of 36, it tells you how useless the situation is and how hopeless it has become. Only 1 out of 36 is being talked about. That is appalling in the extreme.
My brotherly, thank you for doing this with me. It's overdue.
No, it's a pleasure.
On and on and on. I look forward to seeing you soon.
Anytime, brother.